Da 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 Star Wars.
Da 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 da.
By which, of course, we mean we've played Star Wars Outlaws in a very long 4-hour-ish session, playing various bits and bobs across a few missions and areas in the game. And yeah, we're going to talk about it, talk about what we enjoyed, what it's all about, what we didn't enjoy, all of the Star Wars.
And why, if you touch Nix, I'll attack you.
Yes, the small rat dog, axolotl, I suppose it kind of looks like. But more on him or her later.
Let me see some identification.
Yeah, sure.
You're Torin Valerio Nupp?
That's me.
First impressions of the game, I rather enjoyed it. Obviously, it's going to be better when you can play on your own setup and your own stuff. But as we did a remote capture, so there was, the remote capture is not quite the same as playing it natively, but all the same. Thanks to Ubisoft, of course, for inviting us to play the game. And yeah, first impressions were pretty good. I would say. What are yours?
I think they've done a Star Wars. It felt very original trilogy. Lo-fi, hi-fi, sci-fi, whatever.
Yeah.
They've done a good job of nailing that aesthetic. All the little towns and stuff. They felt very Cantina Band kind of like. There was little bars and dives and.
Yeah. Speaking of which, we'll go straight into it and talk about the visuals and the exploration part of the game. So visually, it's a Snowdrop engine. It looks, even playing remotely streamed, it looked absolutely great.
Okay, we're alive. We fix the ship, get to the core worlds, and land a big sport.
Very, very high density fidelity sort of look of the cities and the open world and stuff. I think we all knew graphically it was going to be pretty good, but like you said, it's very sold.
No, you can't fault the graphics of the world, and also the little conversations as you're walking through the towns and stuff. They make it feel like you're in a Star Wars.
Yeah, that happens quite a lot. I mean, that's kind of part of this game, is that you're walking through and you're hearing bits and bobs, and in fact, you can actually eavesdrop conversations and learn about hidden stashes and all sorts of stuff like that.
There's little things where it says lean on wall, and then you can listen in, and maybe it'll start a quest or.
But the cities. We got to play in a couple of the cities actually. I forget the names of them. But they feel very lived in and good. The overworld as well. We had a little hoon around on some speeders. And yeah, there seems to be a lot going on. Obviously, it's a classic open world game, so there is a ton of things to explore and find. It is a Ubisoft open world game, so as you're driving around, you'll see question marks popping up, things popping up. There's hidden stashes, caves, mini outposts, all sorts of stuff like that.
So I did quite like how, as you're going along, occasionally you'll hear like a coin, like ping, and then like a little pulse, and it'll kind of just have a question mark going, look, there is something over there. You don't have to. We're not telling you it's a quest. We're not saying what it is. If you want to go and investigate it, go and investigate it. If not, just carry on.
Yeah, there was a few of them for me where those ping came up, and I kind of made the rule when I was playing that if Cons comes up, I'll just go and have a look. If it's on my path to what I'm doing, I'm happy to go and have a look. So I did that a few times, and I found a few little caves and stuff that I had to rappel down into, and found some bits and bobs and tat.
I found some Imperials that were doing a shakedown on a fisherman, and then I dealt with them with extreme prejudice.
Well, that's lovely. And your rewards for that can vary from like materials to upgrade your ship or your weapons or anything like that, or there's stuff you can get for Nix. There's lots of, we'll talk about that next really, but there is lots of stuff you can loot, and there's lots of crafting elements to this game. That's kind of rewards you'll find as well, and like also skins and stuff for your blaster and your clothes and stuff seem to be
so there's
rewards.
little collectibles you can find, which then you can trade in for cosmetics and things.
But talking of the character, the world and whatever, characters felt pretty good as well. The characterization of Kay and Nix is great. I felt like the story that we were put into was pretty good.
Well, basically there's some criminal gangs. There's the fishermen, the pikes. There's the Huts, obviously the big slug boys, and then the Crimson Dawn.
And then there's also a fourth one, which we had a little bit of experience with in the second part of our play session. But there are basically 4. Yeah, so the whole game revolves around this interaction with these criminal syndicates, as they're called,
and reputations with them.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about that in a second as well. But just generally, the characters that I met and the voice acting and VO felt very, very strong. I had no problems with it. I wasn't thinking, oh, that's a bit ham or that's a bit... And even if it was a bit hammy, you know, it's Star Wars. I didn't think that, though. I thought, actually, all of it was good.
Like...
In fact, I didn't even skip much dialogue, which is... that's saying a lot for you. That's saying a lot for me. I mean, it's okay. There's a few times I did, but, you know, like side mission stuff. But most of it, I was actually interested into hearing what they had to say. And a lot of the... we'll talk about this in a second, but a lot of the missions have different ways you can finish them. And therefore, there's different things they say based on what you've done. So, overall, visuals, exploration, good. Characters, good. We'll move on. Shut up and move on to the gameplay. So general minute-to-minute gameplay. And now this is where I genuinely think the game sort of falls down, but is not as strong as the general world building, because from my experience, the gameplay is extremely basic, or at least the bits that we played were very basic, because we didn't have much unlocked.
I'd liken it to a Rockstar game where, you know, the world's nice, and but the actual gunplay is essentially just a crosshair and you click and it fires.
And it's very, very Red Dead, in fact, because it is a blaster, which essentially is a laser 6 shooter. And you can do that thing where you can press a button and mark people.
High noon, it goes,
which is essentially Red Dead. You're right. The closest contemporary thing, like gameplay-wise, is something like Red Dead, where it's basically just point and click, and then you can mark people and kill them all. That being said, like I said, we're at the start of the game. There are lots of abilities and different ways and things you can unlock.
And,
But so we didn't have much of them. But the starting gameplay, you've got your blaster and you've got Nix, who you use as a big gameplay mechanic to help you out in the game. You can use him to distract enemies. You can use him to actually attack enemies. You can do various things. You can pickpocket from people, which I did quite a lot.
Okay.
In the town, you can just get him to nick credits for you off people. That's not part of active like combat gameplay, but yeah, you can nick stuff, which I
liked the Nix thing. Like, I shot a guy and he had like a sniper rifle, but he was far away from me, and I was pinned down, and I told Nix to go and get it. And it took him quite a while, I will say, but he is just a little rat or whatever. Yeah. So but he did come and bring it to me, and then I shot them, so that's good.
That's good to say. You've got a sniper pinned down. You can actually go send him to nick that guy's sniper, and then do it back to him.
And also the skill trees and upgrades, that they're done through NPCs rather than through just a menu in your kind of.
Yes, we can't show this because it's not permitted. But essentially, your skills or upgrades to your character are done via contacts. So you get some contacts, and then those contacts have various like upgrades or ability or cards, they look like, kind of, that have certain parameters for you to complete before they're unlocked. For example, I was doing lots of stealthy gameplay, whereas you weren't, and via doing some of the stealthy gameplay, like I think I take down 6 people from behind or something like that. I unlocked the ability to do fast talking, which means that if you are stealthing and you're spotted by a character, you can press a button and Kay will put her hands up and go, whoa, 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 I don't want any trouble here. And whilst you're doing that, you can then quickly you can press a button and quickly draw your blaster, or use Nix to attack them whilst you're putting your hands up.
Go for the eyes, boo.
And then whilst Nix is attacking them, you can run forward and knock them out, and that won't raise the alarm. So so it gives you a chance to, I've been spotted, but you quickly get rid of them, and then the alarm doesn't get raised. So and there's lots and lots of contacts and abilities, and that's kind of how the progression works. So it's not a traditional skill tree of earn X points and spend X points in tree. Which actually you
can mod your blaster in quite a lot of ways, actually. I had a rapid fire blaster at one point, and then also there's the ion blaster, which stuns people or charges electrical like puzzle elements and stuff.
So that's all the equipment. So I didn't play with much of that, but there's lots of, like I said, there's lots of crafting materials and upgrades you can get for your weapon, for your blaster. Because really, as far as I know, she only has a blaster as an inherent weapon. Yeah. Anything else like snipers,
you just drop them if you get on a ladder or whatever.
Yeah, they're temporary. Kay just has a blaster, and every other weapon in the game is just a temporary weapon you'd nick for a mission or once you're fighting.
And for her equipment, you've got chest, legs, and then like your holster. And when you buy them, they've got perks. Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. So there's lots of progression. So even though the gameplay felt basic for us at the beginning, it does feel like it would flesh out once you've got some more abilities and some more upgrades for your stuff.
What? You never make new friends?
I have enough friends.
Yeah, but you don't have to pay me to hang out with you.
Talking about the Syndicate system, which we briefly touched on earlier, this is the centerpiece of the game, really. everything you do, more or less, is going to affect your standing with various syndicates. And the higher you're standing with a syndicate, the more rewards and more missions you can get from them. And the lower you're standing with a syndicate, the more you won't be able to go into areas controlled. Well, you can go into areas controlled of them, but they'll hate you.
Yeah,
and they'll try and kill you. Yeah.
One of the little eccentricities
is that if you look them in the eye, they'll attack you. So this happened a few times. There's kind of layers to it as well. So I had good standing with Crimson Dawn, which meant I was able to go into a Crimson Dawn hideout and use some of their vendors, but I wasn't allowed to go into the Crimson Dawn, super hideout, where the bit that's you need higher clearance. Now, it was a bit confusing, I found, to know when that was, but you'll know because they'll go, "What are you doing?" And that's it. And it does say at the start, it does say at the top of the screen, you're now trespassing. So I have to assume, though, if your Crimson Dawn is, or whatever Pike Syndicate is maximum, you can actually just walk around with immunity in the entire area. I don't know that for sure, but I have to assume that's kind of how it works.
I was looking for like the hut base. I'm not even sure if it's on that planet.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure where. It seemed like mainly it was the Crimson Dawn versus Pikes on the planet we were on.
I did one mission called Sabotage, I think, for the huts, which there was like a double cross, and then there was another choice where I could allow the double cross to happen or stop it, and that again influences like one of two factions in a positive or negative way.
Yeah, well, we both did that mission, actually. I did it extremely stealthily. I stealthed around the back. I used Nix to pickpocket a key card off a guy and snuck into the back of the operations building. Now, I only briefly looked at your footage, but you seem to rampage through with a grenade launcher and kill everyone.
Yeah, I found a space grenade launcher, killed loads of people, then killed the man, accidentally found the key card, then bumbled through and found the treasure.
Yeah, and then, the guy turns up, and turns out the guy who's give you the tip for the mission, he's working for the Crimson Dawn, and says, "Hey, give us the info and tell the huts you couldn't find it." And I did that as well. Now, interestingly...
No, I shot him dead.
Oh, okay. Well, I said, yeah, okay then. I'll do that. So, weirdly, I thought, okay, the huts are going to be really mad at me. But when I went back to the hut, the guy who gave me the mission, and told him, sorry, there wasn't actually any... with the details, the folder of documents or whatever, didn't exist. He was angry... But he still paid me for half the job, and I still got hut reputation, but half of as much as I would have got. Okay. So I did the sabotage bit, which is what they wanted me to do, but I didn't find the documents. So they were like, "Well, he did say, I think you're lying, but obviously he can't prove it." So but
well, I think he gave me a lot of money, and I think he kind of went, the huts reward loyalty or something like that,
Yeah. So you'll get a big bonus of hut loyalty and a better reward for doing that, whereas I got more loyalty for Crimson Dawn and a little bit of hut. But not negative, at least, which I thought was good. Yeah, so there's lots of different ways you can do stuff in the Syndicate system. I think that adds a great amount of replayability. Clearly, that's what they want.
Yeah.
I don't think you'll be able to do potentially every single type of mission in one playthrough. I feel like doing one mission is going to essentially... if you do something with the Crimson Dawn that the huts hate, you can't really fix that in one playthrough. I don't know, but maybe you can.
If you're hated by the Pikes, then there'll be characters that won't speak to you, or maybe there'll be missions you won't even be able to do.
There's probably ways, if you really wanted to, you could balance. You could do it so that you could get max rep with each faction one playthrough and do all their missions. But I think that'd be a lot of time invested, which is that's what.
There's also a wanted status with the Imperium. Or the Imperial, sorry.
GTA.
Yeah, and then you can... I found that in both cities, there was a corrupt officer.
Yes, you can clear your wanted
pay off
status.
your debt.
So that's that. Mini games, just briefly talk about them. You played a few of them. You played some space poker.
Yeah, which I'll be honest, I understood it less than I understand poker. But from what I could tell, you have 2 cards, and there's 3 rounds, and you have a chance to swap your cards out, and you kind of got to get the lowest pair, or something like that. But... yeah, I think a few more games and I'd probably have got it, but it was quite confusing.
Well, there's that, and then there's some you can do betting on camels or something.
And I found an arcade machine as well, and basically just did asteroids, So I'm
sure there'll be plenty of little mini games and ways to just spend your money or
just spend time and just feel like you're living in the Star Wars.
Yeah. We only got a brief go on the space gameplay. Now, again, this sadly is I didn't really like this. It kind of reminded me of Starfield a bit. I just not as bad as Starfield. I didn't really like Starfield space gameplay at all. This one I had a little bit of a go on. Yeah. Maybe it'd be more fun when I'm playing it natively.
It's all right. I actually crashed as I was landing on the planet in the second hour of the play, or the second half of the play, and then it let me. They obviously reloaded it up for me, and I had a completely different scenario where there was a Pike. Crimson Dawn freighter was under attack by pirates.
Yeah, I did that as well,
whereas I didn't get that the first time I went to that area, so that's obviously a random event.
Yeah, I got that as well. So you can defend the freighter, and then you get rep and money and stuff.
Yeah, and like you can like double tap like the movement to dodge with the ship, which is a bit weird, but
I think the movement it's closer to something like Battlefront 2 in terms of the space combat. I just wasn't. The main thing that was sort of overwhelming was the amount of UI elements on screen at once. It didn't feel very clean. But it's fairly robust in itself, and of course you can upgrade your ship as well, and you can outfit the Trailblazer, which is the ship's called, with all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
So again, maybe once it's fleshed out a bit, I'll enjoy it more. But just with the basic overheating blaster and missile, I didn't find it particularly enthralling.
Yeah.
But,
I will say you can't just like fly like in open space from a planet to a planet. It seems like you warp to a system or a planet, and then there's a space area before you land on that planet.
Yeah, you can't go down to the planet.
So. Nebulas and clouds and wreckages you can go. And
explore. To be honest, flying through the nebula and it looks beautiful. Yeah. Like flying through the nebula and finding wreckages was quite fun. I did that for mostly the second part of the session for me. I was just exploring the nebula and the bits and getting treasures and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then occasionally being attacked by pirates, and you can't lock on in there's like parts of the nebula where your lock on doesn't work, and you don't get the targeting reticule either for the lasers. So you have to you have to Luke Skywalker it and turn off your targeting system, which I actually think was bloody reckless. But anyway, so that's the space gameplay, and that's there's a lot there to explore. Again, we had a long session, but it's a big game, so
you can upgrade your speeder as well and your ship.
Yeah, the speeder on the ground speeder, which again, playing on remote play, and it's a very fast vehicle, the speeder. There was a lot of clanging into stuff at high speeds repeatedly, but I'm sure we'll be okay natively. We'll just briefly touch on the UI and UX as well. My favourite. Sadly, again, a game where I feel like this is not.
We're not allowed to show it. So
no, we're not allowed to show. Well, you can see the UI for the gameplay, which is fine. I don't think it's particularly good or anything. It's basic and it kind of works and it's functional.
Map specifically, I take issue with in the towns.
Navigation in the towns is horrendous. I couldn't find my way around anywhere. Like there's just a compass. There's no mini map. The main world map that you open, I assume it's not final. Hopefully it's not, because it was very hard to use, and that became a big point of frustration, I think.
You've got towns with 3D verticality, but the map is 2D. That's the problem.
So it was that. I hope they've done more to that on the launch. I really do, because I did find, once you learn the city a bit, you'll get used to it and you'll know where the contacts are. But initially, because it's such a highly detailed interior environment, it did remind me, I said, of Star Citizen, where these bigger detailed environments where you just can't navigate them because it's like being dropped in the middle of the Westfield shopping centre and if you're on a different planet and you're like, what? I don't know where I'm going. And it's just,
I mean, that was the only real negative out.
Yeah, the only negative for me was just some of the navigation. I was like, ugh. But, I'm a real stickler for UI and UX, so it can annoy, it can frustrate, but hopefully it'll be better on the launch or it'll be more improved. Right, so that's basically everything. We'll just wrap up now. It is the Star Wars. I think it's going to fulfill a very specific Star Wars
original trilogy.
Yeah, original trilogy style. It's going to fulfill that fantasy of being a smuggler and a roguish, garish Han Solo type character. We've done lightsabers to death. I mean, I dare say there'll be some lightsaber wielding.
Well, they've said no force, no sabers. So we'll see.
But yeah, I think it's going to be a pretty solid Star Wars game, to be honest. And we'll see what happens on launch, and you'll have to come and watch us play, or watch everyone play.
Can you describe it in a sound?
Is that good?
Yeah, I think that's fine.